Welcome back to this special edition of The Skinny. Ken Stout with you, Rico Elmore in the house, Rob Klepper here with us, Smoke, yes, Tony Stewart in the house as well, and a couple of call-in guests, two-time Chili Bowl winners, Rico Abreu and Cory Cruzman. Stay with us, it's going to be fun. The only reason we really brought Klepper in here is so I could put him on the spot every now and again. So give us your best New Zealand story. You and your brother down there tearing things up, and you've got to have something.
We got to go down there twice in 98 to 99. Then we were there from 99 to 2000. So for the Millennium Switch. And New Zealand's the first country across the international date line. So it was the first country on the planet to move into the new millennium, which meant big party.
So you got that going
in
for
Auckland.
you.
We got that going for us. But we also got in trouble. I think it was
Once
Media
again, we're
Day.
behind.
You've been down to Western Springs, I'm sure. They do a Media Day. They put the drivers out on the track. Local news shows up and shoots some interviews with the drivers. The first year we went, it was a bunch of young guns. Myself, my brother, Ricky Shelton, and Steve Payton the first year. The second year, we went with Jerry Coons. Jay Drake went down there with us, Mark de Beaumont. But that first year, Media Day, we're in the country for a day and a half, still messed up on jet lag. I said, listen, they didn't prep the track. It's completely flat, no bank at all, right? It's a beautiful facility. I said, go run a couple laps, run it through the corner. We'll try and guess on the gear and try and learn something out of this to get ready for the first race. And it was, I think, the second lap. He jumped on the gas, went down into turn number 3, full bore, backed it into the wall, destroyed the tail tank, wrecked the rear of the car. And when he got back, I said, what the heck was that? He said, well, I was curious if I could flat foot 3 and 4. I go, it's Media Day. Now we got a junked car. We're in the country for 24 hours. We got a junked car. Sports page next day. Welcome to New Zealand.
Mission accomplished. Media Day.
There it is. Like, awesome. Appreciate that. So, yeah, day one, we're already fixing race cars. And, from then on, it was, dude, really? You got to try and flat foot Media Day. Not good.
Going for it, man. Make the headlines, right?
I guess that's the racer mentality. You look at the track and you go, Chili Bowl, it's small, but if it's right, I should be able to flat foot it. Let's see if we can get through 3 and 4 without lifting.
Makes you feel, I'm only laughing because when I went to Australia in '95 after winning the Triple Crown, I did the same thing on Media Day. I looked at it and all the media's there, same deal. I rifled it. The only thing is I didn't back it in the fence, but
yeah.
I was sitting there the whole time going, I think I can flat foot it around there. And for us, it's a huge deal to go overseas like that. So when you go there, you want to make a splash. You know that what the country thinks of the American drivers when they go over there. So you want to show them that you live up to the hype. And I remember that day, same thing. I'm like, man, I want to go out there. I want to look good in hot laps. I want to look good to the camera. Here's local media that doesn't know if that you could be a second over the track record or under the track record, and they wouldn't know the difference. But as Americans, we wanted to sit there and we wanted to represent our country and make everybody proud. And for Media Day, we always wanted to go out there and see if we could run wide open around there. We thought it would impress the media, and they had no clue what was going on anyway.
Well, it impressed the media. They got a bunch of cool photos to put in the newspaper the next day, and I'm like, really? Welcome to New Zealand. It's great.
What is that deal like, by the way? You go down there, you're the Americans, you're competing with the New Zealanders and the Australians, and those guys have already made a name for themselves, and you're coming down there to steal a little bit of that limelight. Is that rivalry pretty bitter?
It was weird because some of the guys you raced with thought it was really cool that we came over and they were excited to meet us and race with us. There's a handful of them that are bitter and envious of what we were doing, I guess, and I don't know, for lack of better terms there, but we're not quite as happy to see us over there. But the racing was fun, and the whole time we were over there, I mean, every one of those guys, when we were away from the racetrack, were a blast and made sure you had a good time and had fun. The best part for me was, here I was, a young guy in my early 20s, and went over there, and the best part was having 2 girls argue about which one was going to come over and help do my laundry. Yep. I thought that was the best part of the whole trip. Was like, I can't even get people on my floor to help me do my laundry, and they're fighting to see which one's going to come over and do the laundry. So I thought, man, this is pretty cool. I'd like to come to Australia more and race.
I know. I've never been down there. Early on in my career, I worked a lot with Larry Rice, the late Larry Rice, just a wonderful guy and so talented, of course, in his time. But he told me, he said, of all the places that I ever went to and raced, he said New Zealand is the one place I would move to. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, all the people are amazing there. Their hospitality is just through the roof. They love their racing. But the countryside, we traveled a lot while we were there and drove everywhere just because we wanted to see everything. So both our trip to New Zealand, our trips to Australia, just unbelievably cool trips. Would do it over and over again.
Rico, you been down there?
I've been to Australia a couple times, and I've been to New Zealand twice. So it was that was the biggest thing that stood out about me, is how prepared they were for us to come over there for those months or those periods of time, and how well we were taken care of. The family I went and raced for the second year in New Zealand, I stayed at their house, and they comforted us really well, and we raced their cars, and no matter if we raced good or bad, it was still the same, how they took care of us. So it was a lot of fun. I just going that many years for me, I really kind of grew up in the last few years and realized how important it is for me to be home during these holidays with my family, just because I'm gone so much racing in the summertime, and I never get to go home like I used to. So I take this time to be home, and in the summertime I hit it hard.
Well,
Awesome stuff.
part of that's because I'm his family in the summertime. I mean, it's my roommate. So, and he's not a cheap roommate, by the way. I mean, there's nothing cheap about having him stay with you. You think, he's easy enough. The hardest part with him is his fishing program. His fishing program almost costs as much as the racing program does.
And no cheap bottles of wine for that guy.
No, definitely not. He definitely has a taste for
a good
exquisite wines.
Is this where he flips the car? Oh, yeah.
Almost.
Right there, I would have passed down.
I was wide open.
I would have passed down about the third time it went around, by the way.
Did you have the steering wheel on?
That's what I thought. I thought you took the steering wheel off.
My head was glued to the sideboard, or to the headrest, and it was all the way back.
This is the best part.
I was dizzy right here. I'm dizzy.
I mean, did you plan right at this point to jump on Brian?
Yeah, we were.
He was looking at Keith, but he ended up jumping on Brian.
Yeah. Well, we were at a bar a couple nights before that. After I won my prelim night, and I did donuts that night. And we met up with Brian and Lauren after the races, and Brian was telling me how he's won, X amount of sprint car USAC races, and he's done this many donuts. And I said, well, I just, like to give, show my fans the appreciation, that's kind of my way of giving back. And, I said, and then we ended up making a deal. I don't know how it got, I had maybe too many Budweisers, but I don't know how it turned into, if I won on Saturday, he would be at the car to catch me in Victory Lane. And
so how many donuts did you do?
Oh, I don't know. You lose track about halfway through.
See, that's what we got Big Carl here for. Carl's supposed to have this information.
He was counting them. Hey, roll that back.
Well, I mean, the reason I bring it up is you said he told you how many donuts he did, and you had to do more than him. So I thought maybe
no,
there was a count.
He was just making it sound like he does. Like he's won so many races, he's done 0 donuts, and I don't know. I honestly, I've never done donuts ever since that race right there. I've never done it.
You did enough for a career.
I don't think you can beat that. I don't think you can.
No, I agree. I mean, it's one and done. I mean, perfect.
Yeah, the only thing, I'm not sure the Russian judge scored him properly. He didn't think the Russian judge thought he didn't stick the landing like he should have or something. That thing was on all 4 corners one at a time at different points during that landing before. He just didn't stick the landing like he should. But, I mean, it was pretty impressive.
Keith sent me a picture, on Monday or Tuesday after the race, and my front axle was bent after that.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Peg all the weight down on one edge.
He didn't send you the bill. It's okay. A picture's fine. The bill, that's.
Yeah. All right. So, Stewart, your first win. Tell us about getting to the Chili Bowl. I think I know the story.
My very first Chili Bowl driving for Raleigh Hemling. So, and I don't remember, somebody had offered to fly me down there in some little single engine airplane and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's a long drive from Indiana, from Rushville. And I remember the day that I was supposed to leave, I had like 103.5 degree fever. and some big storm was coming through St. Louis, and the guy called about 2 hours before we were supposed to leave and said, "Hey, we're not gonna be able to go." I'm like, "Well, I gotta go." So I had my bag packed. I'm living with Larry Martz and his family in Rushville, and I grabbed my bag and
Your mom was happy too,
no,
right?
Tootie Martz, Larry's wife, she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I got to get in the car and go." She goes, "You're not going anywhere." She goes, "You got a fever." I said, I have to go now. So I drove all the way to Tulsa all night with a 103.5 degree fever. I remember back in those days, Rico won't understand this. I bought a Discman that you had. The port for it was a cassette with a wire hanging out of it. You put in the tape deck, and plugged it into the Discman. And I had one CD. I barely could afford the money for one CD, so I listened to the same CD wide open. I had the radio up full blast. I did have a radar detector because that proved to be a great investment, by the way. Saved me a lot of money, but had it open wide open, and I ran wide open all the way down there to drive Raleigh Helmling's car in '93.
I think Cory's on there. Let's try to bring him up here.
Cory Cruzman in the house.
And he's cruising.
Another 2-time Chili Bowl winner.
How are you guys today?
Good, man. Yeah, you're pretty blurry on our end, but you sound good.
Yeah, you look like you're in hyperspeed.
He looks fast right now.
I usually feel fat, so fast is good for a change.
We've just been telling some of the stories about getting to the races and some of the crazy stuff that's happened over the years, and I know you certainly have no shortage of stories over the course of your career. Tell us something. Bring us something.
We've had a lot of good times. It was actually kind of cool just last, I guess, a couple weeks ago out here at Turkey Night, getting to spend a little bit of time with the other Rico, getting rained out. But it was a bit of a fiasco out here, but we were able to get the race in and had a good time. I think all in all, there was only one happy person, which typically is what happens on any race night. But life's good right now. We're just still real busy in the off-road stuff and getting cars ready for Chili Bowl.
I just realized why he looks so fast right now, because his daughter's
driving.
Right.
Fastest he's been in years.
Hey, Cory, it's Clep.
Hey, Clever, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Hey, I was curious, how many cars you guys bring in a Chili Bowl this year?
As of right now, we only have 4. So it's going to be
only
a light
four,
year
right?
for us. But you kind of start banking on 5, 6. 6 is the most we can do. But 4 ought to be like a vacation right now. But it'd still be fun. I kind of wish we were there at the Dome.
I was just going to say congratulations on your 20th year for the Cory Cruzman Sprint Car and Midget Driving School coming up here in 2020, right?
Yeah, it seems like a blink of an eye. It went by pretty fast, but still blessed every day to be able to do something that's not work. It's not many of us get to live that dream out, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to drive in circles my whole life and teach people how to do it. So it's been a great run for us, especially with now branching off into the off-road stuff. It's kind of like sprint cars on steroids. It would be imagine putting a jump in the middle of Eldora and sending sprint cars around it. So it's pretty exciting for us. And I actually tried getting Smoke in a truck a couple years ago. Unfortunately, the rain didn't help us out, but I think he would be phenomenal in one.
Well, it's funny. Stout and I have covered off-road for a long time, but those drivers are always telling me, man, I tell you, those sprint car guys and midget guys, those guys are absolutely nuts. And then I go talk to the sprint and midget guys, and they go, "You covering off-road this year?" And I say, "Yeah." They go, "Those guys are nuts, man." Yeah. And it's funny how the different versions of what's insane to do from these professional race car drivers, because short course off-road, as you know, is pretty insane.
It is nuts. I mean, I like to screw around and run side-by-sides, and I get about a foot or 2 foot off the ground, and I think I'm doing something, and it scares the crap out of me. And then he wants me to run a 4-wheel drive truck, and I see these guys jump. They're jumping. They could jump over school buses and stuff. And it's like this doesn't seem like a very good idea to me for some reason. I think there's parts of it I would like, and there's parts where you're supposed to get really high in the air and jump a long way. And I'm like, yeah, you think I'll just kind of roll over this and then get back on the gas? I don't know if I could do it.
I have this picture. Toot my son's horn here for just a second here. He won the championship on a side-by-side in the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series this year. But Cruzman,
and does a heck of a job.
Thank you. You can attest to this. Wheatland got rained out this year. Actually, a tornado hit the racetrack and destroyed the place.
It was
destroyed
bad.
The grandstands,
Yeah.
everything. I mean,
Yeah.
if you saw the grandstands, by the way, it was a story of its own. I mean, we think about the strength of Mother Nature, but literally these big, gigantic I-beams from the grandstands were twisted like spaghetti. It was like, oh my God, how is that even possible?
But it came like from the west right to the east, and it didn't even hit the circle track stands, right?
Yeah, like a lot of the track was still fine, but the off-road grandstands
Yeah, the
and all that
off-road
really took a hit.
And the drag boat strip was the ones that got whacked.
But in the back of that track, and it's a phenomenal track for off-road, it really has a little bit of everything. Real long, arcing, high bank turns, really tight left and right turns.
The tunnel.
A little bit of everything. A tunnel, a jump that goes over the top of the tunnel. And then they have this tabletop in the back that is a tabletop. And I think it's 90 foot, if I'm not mistaken. It was something like, it was 70 to 90 foot flat to flat, like edge to edge. And I have a picture of my son and his Yamaha side-by-side mid-air, because he launched it, got him mid-tabletop, and they were sticking the landing on the other side. And he's got to be 3 stories in the air, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, that is just absolutely insane, man. Talk about a car that was never designed to do what it's doing. And then it comes back and we're like, well, the front end's a little worn out. Oh, you think?
Yeah. See, that's why when Cory wanted me to do this test, it seemed like a really good idea. But the problem is they have radios. So I can just imagine I'm going to be in this thing and I'm going to barely get the tires off the ground. And then you're going to have Cory in the background going, all right, sweetheart, that's really good. You did good there. Now we're going to try to jump this thing over this hill now. It just doesn't seem like.
Well, one night I don't remember we were in Phoenix. It was the same weekend as NASCAR, and we had I think you and Stenhouse were at the off road track, and we got to interview you guys. But same thing. It was kind of like looks fun from the stands, but probably not going to go out there and do.
We had a number of guys along the way back in the Core days, like up till 2008 when Core went away. But Paul Tracy came out and was in one and super aggressive as you would expect Paul to be. But did a nice job, and he just needed some seat time. But they adapt to it pretty quickly, and the big trucks are pretty forgiving. It's the smaller trucks that really you get in trouble with. The Pro Lights just don't have the wheel travel. The side-by-sides don't have the wheel travel. They hit a rut, and it wants to launch it. But the Pro 2s and the Pro 4s really soak up, a lot. And needless to say, the 900 horsepower helps you get over some of the big jumps. But you can also sail them too far. I mean, it doesn't take much of a blurp on the throttle to fly it too far.
Well, it's, we watch these guys do it, the Rob McCachrans, the Carl Renazetters. They go run this thing. They make it look simple. You just drive around the racetrack, and it's no big deal. They come watch these guys, rip the cushion in a non-wing car at Eldora, and these guys make it look simple. It's no big deal. You just toss her in there and bounce off the fence, and it's no big deal, And both are equally impressive. I think the turning right would be very odd on the dirt, probably for an oval track guy, knowing that you're going to toss it in and kind of go the opposite way.
Are you talking you know how many road course wins this guy's had?
Not on the dirt, though. Little different on the dirt. That's what I'm saying. It's got to be a little awkward to go in there and do it on the dirt.
I think the part that probably made me go, this probably may not be the right deal for me, was we went both nights of that weekend. And that was one of the bigger shows out there. And so I remember going the second day, and in practice or something, they were watching film of Adler getting upside down. And Cory was trying to sit there and analyze what was going on and what to do to fix it. And I'm sitting there, and I don't know enough about these trucks to get it. But it's like, I kept asking Cory, I'm like, is it got enough droop in the left rear? So we're sitting here watching this thing frame by frame. But I'm watching this thing when it gets ready to go upside down. I'm like, I got to work a lot harder than that to get upside down in a sprint car. He didn't have to work hard at all to get that truck upside down. And I'm sitting there going, man, Cory, I don't know if this is a good idea. And he's like, oh, it'll be fine. I'm like, well, did you drive it yet? He goes, no. I'm like, well, you drive it first and tell me if it's all right.
Well, that's the other question. When is Cory Cruzman ever going to drive an off-road truck?
That's a great question,
He's been helping drivers out for so long, won some titles with Deegan and other drivers, and still has yet to get behind the wheel.
Actually, I did a test with Patrick Clark about, 5-6 years ago. Before me and Smoke talked about it. So, but that was a Pro 2.
Is there any video footage?
No, there's not.
All right, then they didn't have
it. But I'll tell you, the intimidating part is when you come up to the jump. It's like driving up to the side of your enclosed trailer. You can't see how far it is. You can't see if it goes left to right. You can't see is. And I'm I'm going to tell you, when I drove it, I bet I went up that jump full flat out at about 12 miles an hour. And it landed on the nose and scared me to death. So I'm like, all right, I know they're laughing because I can hear them over the radio. So the next lap, I hit it at about 30 miles an hour and about ripped the rear bumper off because I landed on the tailgate of the damn thing. So I'm finally like, all right, and let's go. So the next lap, I was pretty good. But it's, you know what? I really enjoyed it because you could run anywhere you wanted on the racetrack without the fear of turning over. You know, we go touching, and that's our these ones you can go up over it. And like I said, I think Smoke and Ricky both would have had a great time in it, and hopefully one day we'll be able to accomplish that. But it's such an impressive sport that there's a reason there's 10 people every time we go.
Yeah, the Pro 2s, I think you would fall right in. Like you'd be second nature in a Pro 2. The Pro 4's different just because of the way you have to drive them. You got to flick them in so hard. You're so committed at, really before the turn even starts, to get all the momentum to set you up perfectly.
What about Rico? Rico, would you do it?
I'd hammer them. Yeah, they sound so much fun. Like I'm over here licking my chops. You guys talking about these things?
I'd hammer it.
Pepper, guys. I mean, just like Wheatland scares me because of that we're talking about. I mean, those guys were jumping over 200 feet on the landing, and they finally, all of the drivers together, and they're like, "All right, we're not going to do this. It's unsafe. It's the jump's too big. It's too fast." And I'm like, at the driver's meeting, I'm like, you guys know the throttle pedal is on a hinge. You do have a brake pedal as well. This is something you can control. But
stupid talk.
Yeah, they're wanting to redo the jump because we're jumping too far, as opposed to, we can just slow down a little bit.
Yeah, let me tell you exactly where he's going with this and why this doesn't make sense to race car drivers. Because when Jason Leffler first came back to run for Keith and Pete in Indiana, he lived with me too. I must be like the shelter for wayward boys and battered men or something. But he lived with me, which that kid never saw the crack of noon. I mean, about 4 or 5 o'clock, his bedroom door would open for the first time. But we bought these little P50s, and we had watched Crusty Demons of Dirt, and here you had Jeff Emick and all these guys, and they bought these 50s, and they had this little track in Emick's backyard. And what sold me is it was $5 to win the race, $5 for the best takeout move. I'm like, we got to get some of these. So we went down to the only place we could find 4 of them was in Nashville, Tennessee. So we drive to Nashville, get 4 of these P50s, they fire them up in the parking lot. That's what Honda does. Load them up in the truck. We had them strapped down, roam straight home, straight to the middle of the night. I live in a residential neighborhood. Thank God my neighbors are old people that have known me my entire life and know that I'm a dumbass. Immediately know I'm a dumbass. We were getting painters lights and setting these up.
Everybody in that.
Everybody, well, exactly. The whole neighborhood knows I'm a dumbass. But we had painters lights that were in the garage, and we had fluorescent lights from the ceiling. We had them out hooked up to 2 ladders, anything where we could get light in the backyard. We're running these things till midnight, until somebody, and it wasn't my immediate neighbors because they were out watching in lawn chairs. Somebody in the neighborhood called the cops. But we raced and raced and raced, and we raced around a pine tree, and then we had a right rear sprint car tire that was dismounted, and that was the marker for the other side. And we just ran the oval. So that got to where that wasn't good enough. So then we took a garden hose and watered the grass to make it slick, and then the element of difficulty went up. And it finally got sketchy. So I was just like what Cory said. I said, well, if we take our helmets off and don't ride with helmets, we'll slow down because we won't be as wild and crazy if we don't have helmets on.
There's a great idea.
That lasted about a half a lap is all the longer that lasted. And then when Leffler went by me, it pissed me off, and I went back to hammer down without a helmet, which was a much better idea. So,
tell him about cleaning his legs out when he tried standing up.
Well, that was the $5 best takeout move. I mean, you'd get somebody.
It's $5 on the line. I mean, come on.
Who was the guy? Jeff who?
Emick.
Jeff Emick.
Jeff Emick.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we learned real easy. If you got on the inside of somebody and could get on the gas and get up beside them, you could reach over there and hit their kill switch. And just enough. I mean, you had to take your hand off the throttle to do it, but you could just get the kill switch and get back on the throttle long enough to clear them and go on away. But that worked for a little while. And then the only way you really got a really good jump on a guy is if you could get all the way beside him and get half a bike length ahead of him. If you could take your right foot and kick the front of his tire while he's leaning this way and kick it this way, he'd go, boom, slam on the ground. So then by the time that they went, woke back up, got propped back up. Now, keep in mind, it's a 50, so your legs are at a triangle to hit the ground. It's not like you're on a full-size bike standing up and down. Their legs are hanging out. Well, by the time they go to kick it, you're coming around again. So they got all their weight on the left leg, and they're going to kick-start this thing. And by that time, it's like Daniel's son. You sweep the leg. You sweep the leg, and then they fall like a tree because they cannot physically get their leg back fast enough. So you watch them on this little 50 go, and the cycle starts all over. So that would normally get the best takeout move. You normally took the $20 pot and celebrated.
And
so it was a lot of fun.
All these motorcycles, and mind you, all these motorcycles were bought for that $5 pool.
Yeah. I think they cost us about $2,500 a piece, though, to win $5 at a time. It was just like any other racing division.
And you guys get mad at the promoters, don't pay you enough.
Yeah, but the good news is the promoter let us race at all hours of the night, at least till the cops called.
Thanks for watching this edition of The Skinny. Go to fatheads.com and check out all the latest in eyewear apparel, along with many other products. Thanks to our partners at Elliott's Custom Trailer and Carts for their partnership in this production. Don't forget to subscribe.